Good morning, this is Pat Ryan. It's Wednesday morning after one of the worst nights I can remember in my life, one of the most horrific, indescribable, unfathomable acts of violence last evening, yesterday in Uvalde, Texas. 19 kids, 19 elementary school kids gunned down. And I just dropped my two boys, Theo, who's almost 3, Cameron, who's gonna be 5 months this weekend at daycare, and I didn't totally expect to be, but as I walked them, actually as Theo pushed his younger brother in the stroller up the ramp, and his younger brother smiled at him, I was just completely unexpectedly overwhelmed with a whole gamut of emotions, and I held it together. I brought them inside. I came back out to the car. I'm sitting here, I'm looking at this playground at their daycare right in front of me, right out the window, out my window. And I'm thinking about Theo's smile, and I saw a picture this morning online of one of the first pictures of one of the young kids. I think he was a second grader, and his smile reminded me so much of Theo. This big smile in this picture, and now he's gone. And all I can think about is my kids on this playground at their daycare, where I drop them almost every morning. And then I juxtapose that with what I've seen in my life and my time. I've seen right up in front of me the pure violence and destruction that guns, and especially assault rifles, which I carried in combat for 27 months, do to the human body, to an adult human body. Firing 5.56 millimeter rounds at extremely high velocity designed to enter the human body, do what's called tumbling, and literally designed not just to kill, but to maim and destruct and to rip apart human flesh. And then I think about my son's little hand, and I think about his little arms and his legs, and how he pushes himself up the stairs on a slide. And I can't even imagine what the scene looked like at this school. I've seen scenes in war and combat of horrific carnage. But to think that that is happening at a school in the United States of America again, and now to wrestle with this as a dad and a parent, a leader, I'm so sad. I'm so angry. I'm so lost for how do we break this deadlock? And there's so many things that we need to do to address what leads to this unfathomable decision of this kid yesterday to do this. But we can't let the fact that this is a complex problem that has a lot of different causes lead us to be paralyzed for more years. We've been paralyzed for 10 years, almost 10 years since this happened in Newtown. And we've done absolutely, literally nothing. Nothing. Tell me one thing that's been done. And we can't deny anymore that there is a stark choice that we have to make as Americans. Kids our kids, my kids, or guns. And anybody who says anything different than that, how do you believe that anymore? How do you believe that anymore? I can't understand how any elected official at any level who takes an oath to protect their community, to provide public safety, how can you not do everything you possibly can to keep kids safe at school, to keep kids safe at grocery stores, to keep kids safe in churches and concerts and everywhere else we've had these mass shootings and shootings? How can you not recognize that 89% of Americans support universal background checks? How can you not recognize that when we had the assault weapons ban in place, a law that all it did was take weapons designed for combat, for pure killing, off our streets? And when we had that law in place, we dramatically lowered gun deaths, gun violence deaths. And when it was lifted or allowed to lapse in an act of pure moral and political cowardice, mass shootings and gun deaths nearly tripled. And this isn't surprising because, again, as someone who has carried this weapon, who's qualified as an expert in the U.S. Army to shoot and maintain and use an assault rifle, in my case, the M16 and the M4, very similar to the AR-15, very similar. They fire the same rounds at the same velocity. There is no other purpose than this weapon. There is no other purpose for this weapon than killing, and killing a lot of people. That is what it's designed for. I don't know how we could ever believe or delude ourselves that the founders and framers of this country and our Constitution, that when they wrote the Second Amendment, could ever believe that this is what would be happening and be allowed. That is just ridiculous on its face. The same framers who talked about life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, about forming a more perfect union, that they, with the leadership and the courage and the vision that they had, that they, in the face of what happened yesterday and has been happening for most of my adult life now, going back to Columbine, that they would allow our government to be paralyzed and to do absolutely nothing. And we wonder, why are people, we ask ourselves, why is trust so low in government right now? Why don't people have faith in Congress and in our government? Are you kidding me? In the face of pure, unadulterated, preventable violence against our kids, we're doing nothing. Congress is doing nothing. And people are smart. People understand, if you can't solve that problem, how are you going to solve any of the other big problems facing our country? If I can't trust you to understand what's happening and listen to me as a parent, as a human being, that it should just be an absolute truism that these sacred places of churches and schools, places where we go to get groceries, should just be safe. That's it. Just be safe. If our Congress can't achieve that, how do we expect them to trust and believe in us to do anything else? To address the climate challenges we're facing, the need to get healthcare to people, the need to fix our economy, the need to navigate complex global dynamics and foreign policy. If we can't solve these simple problems, if we can't show the moral courage and the leadership, then of course people aren't going to trust us. And that is the beginning of the end, the unraveling of our democracy, the fundamental bond of trust between those elected to lead and serve and those who entrusted them is fraying. And it's because we're failing to act on things like this. So yes, of course, we need action. But we know what we need to do. It's not hard. Anyone who's studied this knows. We need an assault weapons ban. We need universal background checks. We need to end the gun buying loopholes. These are all common sense, proven things that have worked in other countries and other places for decades. What we're missing right now is not the policy. It's the courage. It's the backbone. It's the backbone. So if you believe in our country and our democracy and the values we actually outlined in our Constitution, which I do deeply, which I took an oath to go to West Point to serve in combat, to risk my life, to see my friends give their life, because I believe in those values. And I believe those values translate to the fact that my kids, my almost 3-year-old and my almost 5-month-old, just deserve to be safe at school. If you believe in that, then we need to vote, and we need to vote for leaders who will actually bring us together, who won't divide us, who won't cave to the gun lobby, who won't show moral and political cowardice, but will actually lead. That's what we need right now. That's why I'm running for Congress. That's why I feel strongly about this issue. That's why I've centered campaigns around this issue. We desperately need leadership in this country, in our politics, in our Congress. Please pay attention. Please act and do something. Thank you.